And we not only touch on three oceans, we actually have the longest coastline in the world, and close to half of that is actually Arctic. And then we have the fourth largest ocean territory. And when you actually look at our GDP contribution to the or ocean economy contribution to GDP for Canada, we're about half the world average. So the world average is about 3.2, and we sit at about 1.8. And the ocean economy globally is set to double by 2030, according to the OECD. They've come out recently and said it's actually doubled probably by 2025 based on the current growth that they're seeing. And if you look at Canada, so that's 3 trillion US dollars, and we're about 50 billion Canadian. So that creates lots of opportunity for growth to take advantage of the natural assets that we have, and then the growth potential globally, and really bring those two together.
Say ocean economy. What do we mean by that?
Yeah, so I think that is part of the challenge. So we talk about ocean economy or blue economy or sustainable blue economy. Now we're talking about the regenerative ocean economy, and it really is everything that is touching the ocean. So it is impacting, jobs and livelihoods. It is the fishery. It is shipping. It's aquaculture. It's actually a big piece is actually ocean tourism globally is a big piece of the ocean economy. That's shipbuilding, and so it is quite vast. And we tend to think about it, we think about shipping as part of transportation, or we think about ocean tourism as part of tourism, but those all fit into what is the blue economy or ocean economy.
Where does Canada find itself? I mean, obviously we have that natural positioning in terms of being a strong player. So maybe could you share a bit more about those strengths and what make us unique in that sense, but then perhaps some areas where we can continue to strengthen as an economy?
What's really exciting, so we talked about natural, we also have a huge concentration of researchers and PhDs in the ocean economy. So I think that's really exciting, where we have tended to be challenged, which is part of what the Ocean Supercluster is trying to do, is how we translate that research into commercial outcome. And so that's not just an ocean economy challenge in Canada. That is a sort of a broader challenge, but we do have, the people and the research capability. The other thing, especially in this moment, is we have a lot of technology capability, and particularly artificial intelligence. So when you look at the ocean, for example, right now, we only have about just over 25% of the ocean floor mapped to sort of high fidelity mapping. And there's a lot of work being done to try to collect a lot of that missing data so we can make better decisions. And that's going to be lots of data that will feed into artificial intelligence. So again, we have this strong research capability in artificial intelligence, a huge opportunity to be able to bring that into the ocean economy. And I think the other thing is this model that we have. So the Ocean Supercluster has been around for the last 7 years, and really trying to bring a collaborative model, accelerate growth. I was actually invited to the United Nations back in 2022 to talk about our innovation model, because it is still relatively unique in the blue economy. Others are moving fast. We need to be able to continue to move quickly. But I think it does set us apart. So where we have more work to do is really around awareness. So I didn't really think about how much of my job would be just raising awareness. One of our challenges is most of our people are not on the coast. So you think about where that coastline is, not heavily populated in the Arctic, which is almost half of that coastline. And then a lot of our population sits in central Canada. If they think about water, they're probably thinking about the Great Lakes more so than necessarily the ocean. And so there's a lot of awareness raising. And so one of the key challenges for our companies is actually lack of access to capital. And so to be able to accelerate, we really need increased awareness of our investors, and more capital that is flowing into being able to grow these companies in the ocean economy.
You touched on the concept of collaboration, and I'm sure when you're mentioning all those different industries, at some point, these maybe disparate otherwise industries are going to have to come together and collaborate. So what has that look like? And are you seeing that accelerating over time?
It's been fascinating. So when I came on to this or into this role, so I have a board, and that's evolved over time. But a shipping executive sitting next to fisheries sitting next to, we had oil and gas. And so there's a lot of variety of cultures and perspectives, and a number of those sectors had never really talked together before. So even
Mm.
that was a huge learning. And part of the logic of that was when you talk about technology, artificial intelligence may look different in each of those sectors, but they're all trying to figure it out, or robotics, or autonomous, or, a number of those technology threads. And that was part of the logic. And so if I take an example of that, so what we've seen is a lot of pivots. So I take my technology out of one sector and then I try to apply it into another. But one of our early projects was Ocean Aware, and so they have fish tagging technology. And their consortium, it was a very big project, and they were looking at how to bring that tagging and tracking. They had a shipping partner in there, fisheries, aquaculture, and they also had power and utilities, and the government was involved, as well as an academic institution. And so they were looking at how do they leverage this tagging technology to be able to better understand how fish are moving, or to make better decisions. And what was interesting about that project is, one, they said, bringing it together in the first place, so bringing all those collaborators together, it takes more time. It's harder. But now we're really seeing our ability to speed up because of this model of collaboration, and we're actually bringing other collaborators to the table. And the other thing is, in the power utilities example, they actually found that they could significantly increase operating efficiency for power dams. And so one of the challenges of power dams is fish movement and understanding when the fish are moving and trying to minimize impact. And they didn't have very good information around that. And so that project has now moved from tagged tracking to tagless tracking. So how do you take computer vision to be able to identify fish in moving water, which is not that straightforward. It's not like they're shiny fluorescent green moving through the water. So how do you identify that and then use now computer vision technology to be able to better understand fish movement and improve power dam operations? So there's lots of examples like that. Those are the examples, obviously, that get me really excited. But it is really, experimenting with technologies or taking a use case from one into another, to be able to accelerate learning.
From a sustainability lens, so I work in the emissions space, and we're often talking about this reality. I think that a lot of us have had greenhouse gas blinders on for a long time and haven't necessarily been thinking about water as a resource and the importance of really ensuring that there is environmental health there that then leads to human health, that leads to economic health. So, how do you think about that? Because it is a delicate dance between that economic development, but at the same time, we saw it with some of our seafood out east that if there is a disease that spreads because of there could be extreme weather patterns or could be changing temperatures. But how do you strike that balance as you are looking at working with your various stakeholders?
Yeah, so when I started in this role, actually, sustainability was not, we were very focused on economic growth, and Canada has ocean protection plan that has much more of a sustainability, and we said it doesn't really make sense not to bring those two together. Well, what's exciting is a lot of our entrepreneurs, they want to also make the ocean better. And so there's a high level panel on sustainability that has a number of countries involved. And what they really look at is production, protection, and prosperity. So, really, how does ocean health and wealth come together? And
Mm.
what's really exciting is a healthier ocean is actually a more productive ocean. So, those two things are actually not at odds. And so that, I think that makes it easier. And so we have seen more and more of the focus being building solutions for a healthier ocean. The other comment I would make is a lot of the solutions come from the ocean. So for me, I grew up learning about the rainforest, right? We learned about the rainforest
Mhm.
and the importance of the rainforest for carbon sequestration. The ocean actually is a big absorber of carbon, right? They are, we
Mhm.
the most intense carbon sink in the world. And so I think that's a really important message too, is part of the solution is in the ocean if we can make sure that we are stewards of better stewards of the ocean.
It seems like obviously AI is being talked about. You're even mentioning within your various stakeholders in different industries that have very different projects, but they're trying to think of how to use technology in different ways. How are you seeing that come to fruition? I mean, it's this dance again of trying to figure out what can be trusted, what should we test, and so what does that look like in terms of new technology adoption and maybe even information sharing between those different industries?
One of the things that really attracted me to this, which I didn't realize until I started doing the research for this role, is that we are really digitalizing the ocean. So it's funny, I saw a video from like the 60s. It says we can go farther and deeper in the ocean than ever before. And every decade that becomes truer and truer and truer. And now we truly can, with the technology that we have, reach all parts of the ocean. And so, I mean, I talk about AI, but it's really data driven decision making. So, how do we understand the ocean better so that everything that we do on the ocean and in the ocean and under the ocean is done more efficiently, more effectively, and with less impact? And so we are seeing the technologies, you need to be able to collect the data. So if you think about on land, we have these communication networks. We worry if we're in the woods and we don't have a connection. When you're a remote ocean, that becomes even more complicated and even more expensive. And so we are seeing everything from autonomous platforms. So now we can increase safety by having fewer people on the water. We can reduce cost because we're able to use these autonomous ships that would have previously been these massive research vessels with lots of people on for long periods of time trying to go to remote places to collect data. We've got increases in sensor technology, so we are going to see this more instrumented oceans. So being able to collect all of this data with much, again, lower cost technology. Drones, right? So we have, for example, a project that is in the Arctic trying to create a more harsh environment resistant drone, but those drones can do inspections on ocean assets, access places that people can't easily get to, improve safety. And so, I think we're just scratching the surface of how technology is going to come into the ocean, and then the increased information that we've got. Last example I'll give is a shipping company. So they now have their ships covered in sensors, right? Because they have sensors for everything. But that is collecting huge amounts of data, and they're still needing the insights from that data. And so that's where we are, is trying to figure out how to collect the data, and then what is the information that we're actually getting that makes our businesses better, as well as our use of the ocean less impactful.